Hi and welcome to this DCP web tutorial. In today's tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to create a professional logo for your business using GIMP image editing software. It's a free application that you can download from the internet for Windows and Mac as well, and this will allow us to create this logo which you can use in your stationery or your business or your website, however you want to use that on your business card and so forth. So the first thing we need to do is open up our web browser. I'm going to open up Firefox. You may have a different web browser, but we just want to open up our web browser so we can get access to the internet. And we're going to type in here GIMP, and we're going to see this website. You can go directly to it if you like. It's called gimp.org, and when you click on the link, it's going to load up the website, and you want to click on download, and then it's this link here that's going to allow you to install the application. You can install it on Windows XP or later, so you can install it on various Windows operating systems such as Windows 7 and Windows 8. I happen to be using Windows 7. So when you click on the download link, it's going to take you through to SourceForge, and you can see this timer ticking down, and when it gets to 0 seconds it's going to pop up a window. Depending on the type of web browser you're using, you may see a different sort of pop-up window. I think Internet Explorer may show it down the bottom here somewhere, and you want to go and start downloading this file. It's 86 megabytes in file size. As soon as it's downloaded, check your downloads folder, and you should be able to install that application just by selecting the executable. So I'm going to cancel this, and you need to get this software installed before you continue this tutorial. It's pretty straightforward, and I'm going to close down my Firefox, and I'm going to go ahead and launch GIMP here. You can see it's been installed on my computer. And the windows are all going to load up. So as default, you may not see all of these 4 windows around the edge here, but we're going to sort that out in a second. The way that you're going to get access to these 4 particular windows, we're going to need them in this tutorial. We've got the toolbox, the tool options, we've got the layers, and we've got gradients. So these are the main tools we're going to use when we build this logo or design this logo. So to get access to them, you need to click on window and click on toolbox, and that's going to give you access to this one up here. And if you go to window and dockable dialogues, tool options will give you the one in the bottom left, layers will give you the one in the top right, and down here you will see gradients, and that's going to give you the one, this one here in the bottom right. So you need to click on these. If you don't see them, you're going to need access to them as we go through this tutorial. So the first thing I want to do is actually create a new document. So I'm going to go to File, New, and as default, GIMP's going to say the width and the height of the document is 640 by 400. That's way too small for the work that we're going to be doing. We want to make our logo, of a higher quality than this. And what we want to do is make the document 1920 by 1080p or 1920 by 1080. Why we're doing that is, typical resolutions now, screen resolutions are going to be HD resolution. So you've probably seen a lot of televisions with 1080p, and you've got a lot of mobile devices and tablets. And my own monitor, you can see the screen resolutions here are at 920 by 1080p. So that's pretty much a standard resolution now. Used to be much smaller than that, but this is where technology's moved to, and this is the current resolution that we should be creating our documents at. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and the first thing, we can move this window so we can see it a bit clearer. We want to see all of this edging around here so we can see the document fully. And as usual, I always save my document first before I do anything else. I'm going to go to my desktop. I've got this logo design folder here, so I'm going to save my document. Even though it's just a blank canvas, I'm going to save it into here before I do anything else. I'm going to call it business logo. So you should go and do that as well. And you click save, and as we go through and do our work, we can keep saving our document to make sure we don't lose any information as we go along. So in this toolbox, as we select the options in here, there's various options in here. We're going to use some of them, not all of them today. When we click on one of these tools, let's say for example this text tool, the options down here are going to change to reflect the type of tool that we've selected. So it's quite important to know that as you select these tools here, the options down here are going to change to reflect the type of tool you selected. And the first tool we want to really select is this text tool, because we want to type in some sort of you want to type in the name of your company. I'm going to use DCP Web, that's my company name. So I'm going to go ahead, and you can change whatever I type in into your own company name. So I'm going to click on the canvas using this text tool. So let's select the text tool first. I'm going to click into the canvas itself, and I'm going to type in, and I'm going to use capital letters, DCP Web. And you can see the font is pretty small, and it's using, these are some quick options to access the text editing here, but I prefer to use this tool options here. It's much more definitive and informative, let's say. And the first thing I really want to do is make that text a lot bigger. It's too small. So I'm going to go ahead and set it to something like 180, and that's going to make the text much bigger, and that's what we want. We want much larger text when we design our logo. We can always reduce the size of it afterwards, but we don't really want to make a tiny logo. We want to make something that's quite easy to read, and then we can shrink it down later if we want to, using cropping tools and so forth. We'll look at that as well possibly. So now that we've got the text in here, it's using this default font called Sans, and really it's not looking that great. And I've got quite a lot of fonts installed on my machine, and you should have some various fonts installed on your computer. And you can go ahead and select a font that you like. I'm going to pick one. I'm going to try and find something that I like. I'm doing this tutorial on the fly, so I haven't really preempted what fonts or anything that really I'm going to select. So let's just try and find something that I like. Let's try this splash thin. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I quite like that. That's looking quite good. So I'm going to use that font for this part of the logo, and we're going to put a strap line underneath. We'll probably use the same font as well, but for now this is looking pretty good. And you can see as I typed it in, I changed the font type. The logo is not really centered. It's not really on the canvas in the middle. It's kind of off to the right here a bit. You can see there's a much more space here on this side compared to this side, and we want to try and get our logo centered on the screen. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to select this tool here, the move tool. In fact, actually there's a couple of ways of doing it. We can select the move tool. This is probably not the accurate way to do it, but what I'm going to show you, we can select the move tool. And what's really important is that we click on the logo, some part of the logo, or this text, some part of the black part of the text. We don't want to click out of the logo. We need to click on the black text itself, and then we can move the logo around. So I'm going to move it roughly where I want to position it. I don't want it too low down. I don't want it bang in the middle of the screen, because I'm going to put a strap line underneath. So I need to, I'm going to have it a bit higher up. But that's roughly where I want the logo to be. And we want to position it really in the center line. Let's say if we draw a line down here, we want the logo to be bang in the center here. We don't want it to be, left aligned or right aligned too much. So the way that we can get it right into the center is to click on the alignment tool afterwards. And again, we must click on the logo. So we click on this text here, anywhere like on the black part of the text, and that's going to make sure it's selected. And when we do that, you're going to see these 4 little boxes pop up around the edge, and that just tells us that we've actually selected this text here correctly. And then we can use this tool here, the alignment tool, and we can center it, and we can even center it in the middle of the screen as well, or in the middle of the canvas, this white canvas. Now it's bang in the middle of the canvas, but I don't want it to be exactly in the middle, because I want to put a strap line underneath, so I want to move this up a little bit. Again, we could click on this move tool and we could drag it up, but we might move it to the left a little bit or to the right a little bit. So the better way to do this is to use the move tool. Click on the move tool, select the logo itself, click on the logo, the black part of the logo, the text, and we're going to hold down the shift key. And on the keyboard we have the arrow keys, the up, down, left and right. And what we want to do is hold down the shift key and use the up arrow. So if I push to the left, push to the right, but we want to use the up arrow to move the logo up a little bit. So we're going to put it roughly, let's say around here somewhere, and we're going to, let's actually move it down a little bit. If you don't hold down the shift key and use the up arrow, it's going to move it in small increments, very small increments. That's fine, you can do that. But if you hold down the shift key, it's going to move it in larger increments, which will just speed up that process a little bit. Let's move it down a little bit, so about here. So I'm quite happy with that positioning. We can change that afterwards, but that's pretty good for me for now. And I want to create a strap line. So I want to write something underneath. I'm just going to make something up. So I'm going to click on the text tool again, and I'm going to click on the canvas. And just one thing to notice, when I click on this canvas, I'm going to type in, you know, a strapline. Let's just call it logo designers, yeah. So DCP web logo designers. That's what we want. But this font is too big. We want that to almost sit underneath the logo at the same sort of width. And we're going to need to reduce the font size. So let's set that to something like 120. That's probably not small enough, so let's set it to a bit smaller. Let's set it to 100, and that's probably going to be about the same width as what this is here. We can refine that some more. But one thing to notice, as I'm clicking this text tool and I'm clicking on the canvas and adding in this text and this text, you can see we're getting these layers here. So I've got this DCP web layer, I've got this logo designers layer that I've just created, and really these layers are, we can think of them as separate elements to our design. So we can manipulate these separately. So it's quite important to understand that, and it's, you know, depending on what we're doing, it may not or may add a layer. But typically, you know, in 100% of the case, whenever you add text to this, to the canvas, it's always going to create a new layer for whichever new piece of text that you're going to add to this particular canvas. I'm going to quickly save this as we go along, and again, we want to really move this strap line. So let's click on the move tool and we click on the logo. Let's just make sure we click on some part of this logo, this black part, and we can move this logo underneath. And it looks like, you know, that size that we selected was pretty good, and I'm quite happy with that actually. So I'm going to move it down a little bit, and we can use the alignment tool and click on the logo one more time. You're going to see these 4 little boxes pop around, and we can make sure it's bang in the center. Actually, it's a bit offline. We want to move it to the left a little bit. So let's click on it one more time, and we use the left. Let's click on the move tool again, and we want to just move this slightly to the left a little bit, something like that. So I'm using the arrow keys. I'm not holding the shift key down now. I'm just using the arrow keys on their own, the left and right, to just move it bit more accurately, pixel by pixel, we could say. So I'm quite happy with that. Now, if we click on this background here, we're just going to see the, you know, we've deselected everything on the screen, so nothing's selected apart from this background. You can see this dotted line around the background. I've already done that, so I can see the logo clearly, and it looks, you know, you could use this as it is now if that's what you want. Job done. Just save the document, and there's your logo. But it looks a bit bland, and we want to add some effects to it, and we want to make it look nice. So we're going to do some other work to this logo, and I'm going to show you, you know, some other effects that we can incorporate into our logo. We may want to do some gradient fills to make it look a bit better, and we can do certain things to the logo. So let's try and do that now. So the next thing we want to do is we actually want to click on this layer, and we want to right click on it and duplicate it, because I want to keep a black version of this DCP web, but I want to make another copy of it. So if I duplicate the layer, it's going to create another layer above, and it's going to rename it. You can see it's called, it's also quite important to label these things, but if we're typing in text, it's going to label it for us. And DCP web #1 doesn't really mean anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually drag this layer down. We're going to move it down. So we're going to click on it with our left mouse button, and we're going to drag it below this layer. So let's just switch them around. Let's try and do that. Why is that not working? Let's try that again. Let's try and move this one above. No, it doesn't seem to like that. Why is that not moving? Okay, maybe you can't drag it down, but you can use these arrows here. So let's use this arrow here, this down arrow, and that's going to move it down a layer. So that's just another, I thought we could drag it, but we can't seem to do that. So we use these up and down arrows to move where this second copy of our logo is. And the reason I've done that is because I want to keep this version here, this current version. I want to relabel this one, and I'm going to call this one drop, SHADOW, drop shadow. And I'm going to hit the enter key, and that I'm going to leave alone because it's already black, and that's going to be, it's going to make a bit more sense as we go along. But that's going to be a part of the drop shadow. So I'm going to have some sort of effect, so it's going to look like the logo is popping up. So I'm going to leave that alone. I don't really want to do anything to it. It's the black color. Typically my drop shadow is going to be black anyway, and it's a black font already, so that's good to go. We don't need to do anything with that. And we're going to work on this version. So there's actually two of these. They're layered exactly in the same position, so you can't really see the two versions, but they're both there. And I'm going to hide this version for now. I don't need this. And sometimes when I'm working, I like to hide things that I'm not using, so I can hide this version here. I'm going to hide this logo designers. I'm not using it, so let's work with what we're using. So we can see there's two things we can see. The little eye shows us what we can see, and if I click here again, it will show and disappear. So this is a way, if you've got many layers in this section here, you may want to hide and show layers just so you're working with, you know, a certain layer at a certain time. So you just want to see that layer on its own. So let's go ahead and select this layer. Let's just save our work as it is now. And we've got this text in here, and really what I want to do is have some nice sort of gradient. I'm going to have like a, I'm not sure what color, maybe like a orangey type color, and then it's going to go darker at the bottom here. So let's just try and do like an orange to black, possibly something like that. It's going to make the logo look a lot better. So I'm going to go and make sure I click on this layer, and I'm going to click on the logo, make sure the logo is clicked on, and then I'm going to go to layers, and I'm going to go to transparency. I'm going to say alpha to selection, and when I do that, basically what it's done is it's whatever I do next, it's only going to affect this text, what's been selected. It's not going to affect the background or any of the other things that I'm working on here. It's almost drawn like a, you can see this little dotted line going around it, so it really, that option there is going to make sure only this text here has been selected for the next process that I'm going to do. And I'm going to go ahead and use this gradient tool. So I'm going to click on the gradient tool, select this gradient tool, and what I want to do is do like an orange at the top possibly, and then black at the bottom. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to click on this option here. This is the foreground, and I'm going to click on it once, and I'm going to find the orange color. And the way that we can find colors is we can use this slider, and we click inside of here, and we can move the mouse around. And if I wanted a green, this, you know, you can pick, there's thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of colors in here, variations of colors. And I don't want green, I want an orange color. So I'm going to move the slider down to like the yellow section, yellow and red, and we can find orange around here somewhere. So let's try and find a nice orange, something like that. It's quite a strong orange color. That's what I want. And you can, you know, you can be as picky as you like, you could say, and pick the exact sort of color that you want. And I quite like that, so I'm going to click OK. And this is going to turn orange. And you can see there's another white box behind it, and I want to click on that box, and I want to make that black, and black is typically down the side here. So I'm going to click with my mouse, I'm going to drag to the bottom corner here, and you can see the current is selected black. I'm going to click OK. And when I've got the orange and black like that, you can see I've got this fade going across here, and that's what I wanted. And I'm going to make sure on my gradient tools down this side, I'm going to select this option here, foreground to background, this option right here. So let's click on that, and we need to be a bit careful here. And what we want to do is drag a straight line going all the way down. Maybe it'll be a bit easier on this P letter to see this, but you can drag any way that you like. It doesn't matter whereabouts you drag. Probably this B would be a better option because it's a bit longer here, you can see, compared to the other fonts. So let's use this B. So I'm going to start in the middle of the B at the top here, and I'm going to hold my mouse button down. You're going to see this white line, you should just be able to see that. And I'm going to drag a straight line down. When I let go, it's going to start with orange and fade to black. And maybe I want to make that a bit more dramatic, so I can change that by dragging down. I'm not dragging so far, I'm going to drag maybe to about this position here. So a bit higher up, I'm going to let it drop about here. And we're going to get more of the black in, you see. So you can play around with that and get that color variation exactly how you want it. You can experiment with that as much as you like until you get exactly what you want. And if you're not happy with that orange, maybe it's a bit too muddy, it's not looking as bright as you wanted, you can go back to the color selection tool and we can pick a, you know, a brighter version. Let's try and pick something a bit more brighter. Let's try something like, let's say something like this. Click OK. Let's try and see what that one looks like. Yeah, I think that's okay. We'll use that for now. If we want to change, again, we can change this later just by using that same process. But let's just say that's what we want for now. Okay, we're kind of done there. And to get rid of this selection around the edge of this font, we're going to go to select and we're going to select none. Or you can press Ctrl-Shift-A, or you can go up to select and none. And it's going to deselect it. Now the logos look, well, this text here is looking a bit better. This looks okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click my move tool again. And what I want to do this time is I want to work with this drop shadow. And it's all, do you remember it was a black font before? And if I show it, you're not going to really see it because it's behind, it's exactly positioned behind this version. So you're not really going to see that. But what I'm going to do is click on it. I'm going to hide this one and we're going to see that logo there. Let's just, and with the arrow keys on the keyboard, I'm going to move it down one. Actually, we have to actually click on this move tool and make sure we click on the logo. That's important. And I'm going to move it down 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 4 pixels down, and I'm going to move it to the right 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to show my orange logo. Now you can see the drop shadow behind it. You can see that. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have this drop shadow behind it. So I want to go and perform that same operation or that same process to the strap line here. So I'm going to go ahead and hide these ones, or you can leave them showing if you like. But I think I'm going to hide them, and I'm going to show this version. And we're going to right click, and we're going to duplicate this layer as well. And it's going to label it this name. I'm going to move it down a layer, and I'm going to relabel it to drop shadow as well, so I know what it is. Drop, S-H-A-D-O-W. Actually, when you type it in, drop S-H-A, you need to hit the enter key to accept that. If you don't hit the enter key, it won't recognize that and accept it. So I've got the drop shadow there. I'm going to hide that layer, and I'm going to go to this logo designers layer, and I want to perform that exact same operation that I did with that color variation, that gradient. So we need to click on the logo, make sure the logo is selected here, this text, and we're going to go to layers, and we're going to go to transparency again, and we're going to do alpha selection. We're going to select our gradient tool, and the gradient's already prepared. We don't need to re-prepare it. It's remembered what we used last time exactly, so we can just go ahead and do that operation. We can go down and drag and drop, you know, do that there, and we're going to accept that. Let's just use that for now. If we want to change it a bit more, we can go ahead and do that afterwards. So we're going to go to select, and we're going to say none. So we deselect everything, and we'll hide that layer, and we'll show the drop shadow layer. And we're going to click our move tool and click on the logo itself, anywhere on this black part of this logo. Any of the letters will do. We can click on the D, for example, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 down, and 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right. Now let's show everything. We're going to click on the show here, and we're going to click show and show, and now we can see we've gone from that just that boring black logo to something that looks much better. And you can play around with these gradients. If you don't like, you know, maybe it's too dark down here, it's not light enough, you can redo that and play around with it. But we're going to select the background, and we're going to have a look at the logo. I think it's looking much better now. Quite happy with that, and we can save that work. Let's just save that. And that's really the starting process of this logo. I'm quite happy with that. So we can use that in our website. We can use that on our business cards or whatever we want to do. We can go ahead and save that. So right now, when we click in this file save, we're really saving it as a GIMP file. It's the file format used if we want to come back and open this file and edit it and do something to it. So there's a couple of things that we want to do. We may want to save a version of this logo with a white background, so let's go and do that. We're going to go to File and Export, and it's going to save it in the same folder, but this time we want to save it as a JPEG file. So we're going to select JPEG, and it's going to be called business logo, and let's call this one underscore white background, because it's got a white background. And we're going to click export, and when we click export, it's going to load up this tool here, and we're going to leave it at 90% quality. That's going to be fine. We can see if we move this window out of the way, and let's get that other window back open here. If we click this option here, as we slide down, it's not really gonna affect this logo too much, because it's quite a clear logo anyway. But you know, we're gonna just leave it at 90%. Let's just leave it at 90% for now. That's fine. And you know, if we had some sort of photograph image in here, if this quality was much lower, we would see a lot of pixelation. But this seems to be okay, so we're just going to leave that, and we're going to click export. And then if we just minimize, actually we won't minimize this, we just move this down, and we're going to go to our logo folder. Then we've got this JPEG version of our logo. Here it is. We can use that for whatever we want. Now on that logo, if you wanted to have just the logo and get rid of all of this white section here, we'll have to use a cropping tool. We have to crop the logo out, and I've done another tutorial. If you visit my YouTube page or my website, you'll be able to find another tutorial in GIMP showing you how to actually crop just this part of the logo. You may not want all of this white area in your logo, but that's a different tutorial. I've done a separate tutorial already on that job. You should go and check that tutorial if you want to crop just this part of the logo out. So let's see what that logo looks like with maybe a different colored background. And what we're going to do is just get our layers back up here, and we're going to go ahead and create another new layer. We need to create a new layer by clicking this option here, and we're going to do a transparent layer in this example. So we're going to go ahead and click OK, and we're going to hide this white layer. It's actually at the bottom of the layer, so we don't really need to hide it, but let's just hide it anyway. And you're going to see that this boxing sort of stuff, these square boxes in the background, because this layer is transparent at the moment, and we're going to fill it. So we're going to use the fill tool, this bucket tool, and we're going to select this black swatch here, and let's try and fill this. It's actually filled it orange, so we need to actually have to select this top. Actually, we can click this little, see these little arrows here? This will switch them around. So we click that, it's going to make the black one at the top, and we'll click the fill bucket, and let's fill it again. And we can see another version of our logo, and we may want this version. It's got rid of the drop shadow, but you may like that concept there. You may want to use it for some artwork or something. So let's go and save this logo as well. Let's make a copy of this and save it. Let's go to File, Export, and we'll get rid of the white, and we're going to say black background, and save this one. And we've just exported the same quality. Let's export it, and if we check our folder now, we've got two versions. We've got this black version and we've got the white version, so that's quite nice. So let's go and do some more experimenting. Let's do something else with this logo. We've got this version here, and we can easily show the white version or the black version of the background by just selecting this white and clicking on this eye, and we'll see the white, because we've hidden this black version is not visible. This layer is no longer visible. We should really label these layers. Let's call this one black background and hit the enter key. This is already called background, so we're just going to call this white background and hit the enter key. Now we can clearly see what I mean. It's quite obvious. We can see this is black and this is white, but I like to label things, especially if you've got many layers. Then it becomes much easier to understand what you're looking at. we can see these are drop shadows, so that's quite easy to understand that. So let's go ahead and hide this white layer. Let's do something with this black layer. Let's do some experimenting. There's some other things we can do in GIMP to make this logo a bit more snazzy or improve it in some way. Let's do something with this background, for example. I wasn't really going to do this in this tutorial, but let's have a go at trying to do something with this background to make it a bit more appealing, let's say. So let's go ahead and select our move tool. We don't want the bucket tool anymore, so let's just select this as our default tool. Normally I select this tool if I'm not doing anything with the gradients or anything like that. I normally select this tool here. In fact, let's do something with the gradient. Let's have this background as a gradient color. So we're going to maybe go from black to orange. So at the bottom here it's going to be orange, and at the top here it's all going to be black. So that may look nice. Let's try that out. So we've already got black at the top and orange at the bottom. So we're going to go and select the gradient tool. And really the first thing we want to do actually is before we do that, we want to create a new layer. So let's click on this black background layer here. Let's create a new layer, and we're going to click OK, a transparent layer, that's fine. And it's going to put that layer above, and we'll call this let's call this grade. Let's just call this gradient layer, because we're going to do this gradient effect. Let's hide these ones, and we can just see this because it's transparent. We can see this this boxing in the background. I'm going to click on the gradient tool, and as we did this drag down for this when we colored this font, we can do the same for this background. So let's start at the top of the background and drag down. Let's make sure our line is straight. We want to make sure the line is straight, and let go. And then we've got this gradient now. We've got black at the top and orange at the bottom. Now if you wanted it to be more darker at the top and less orange at the bottom, what you need to do is maybe start your gradient from here. So if I click here and drag to maybe this position, you can see it's much darker at the top now. So how far you drag and where you start your drag from where you finish is really going to determine how that gradient works. So let's try a few different ones until we're happy with it. I think maybe let's try something like this. It's looking a bit dark and muddy, so let's try it the other way around. Let's try it this way around. I think that's okay. We've got the dark at the bottom and we've got a lighter at the top, and we can still see our drop shadow. Maybe this color here needs to be a different color because it's kind of conflicting with our logo color here. So let's try and change that top orange to a different color. So let's click on this swatch here and let's pick a different orange. I've got some colors in here already selected, but let's try, maybe we need like a brighter orange color. Let's try something a bit brighter. Let's try maybe like a yellow like this. Let's see what that looks like. Let's drag from the bottom to the top. Yeah, I guess that's okay. Let's drag it a bit bigger. Let's see what that looks like. You've got to play around with this. It's never going to be pixel perfect the first time around. You've got to experiment to make it look the way that you want it to look. And I'm going to stick with that background for now. We're going to, let's save that as another file. Let's just save that. Let's go File, Export, and let's call this gradient background. So we've got another version of this logo with a different background. Let's export that. Let's click on Export. And we've got another version now. So let's hide that layer and let's come back to, let's create another new layer. We're going to do something else now. So we're going to create another new layer. It can be transparent as well. So we've got this new layer in here, and let's call this one effects. So we're going to do some effects or something. Let's try and do something a bit more fancy. So I probably want like a dark background, so I'm going to use this black. So I'm going to go to the fill tool again, and the black is already on the top here, you can see. So when I fill it, it's going to make it black, and that's what I want on this particular layer. Let's call that let's relabel that again. I didn't hit the enter key, so let's call that, what did we call it, effects. I'm going to hit enter. So let's make sure we select, it's called effects. Let's just save this work. And we'll click our selection tool, this move tool for now. And what I want to do is have some sort of effect in this background. And you know, this software has, this image editing software has loads of different effects that you can do. And let's just try and play around with some effects and see if we can do something nice here. So I'm going to go to filters, and I'm going to go to, we need to make sure that this effects layer is selected, this background, this black background effects layer, make sure that's selected first. And we'll go to filters, and let's play around maybe with some lights and shadows. Let's try and do something with lights and shadows. And we've got something called supernova here. So let's click on supernova, and you can see this little star thing. So you can imagine this is the size. Imagine this is like a scaled down version of this image here. You can't see it's really this layer here. We can see that here. It's a smaller version of it, let's say. And what we want to do is position our supernova around here somewhere, but we want to make it a different color. We can leave it blue if we want, but let's try and pick a color that's close to this orangey sort of color. So let's go and select something that's similar to that, maybe like a yellowy sort of orange color, something like that. Let's make it a bit brighter. It's a supernova, so we want it to be bright, yeah? So that's the current color we selected. Let's click OK. And you can see it's changed to this yellow color now. And you can play around with this, you can move it around, you can change the radius, you can make it smaller, or you can make it much bigger, you know, and you can see that changing here as well. So let's set it to something like 40, and the number of spokes. So these are like these lines that are coming out of it. We're going to set that to something like, we don't want too many, you know, let's set it to something like, let's set it to 80, I like nice round numbers. And this random hue, if you select that, it's going to make like these color variations, so it's all colored. And we don't really want that, we just want one flat color like this yellow here. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and there you can see this light effect now. Almost looks like this light effect is affecting this text here. So that looks quite nice. And you know, sometimes when you take a photo on your camera, you see like this lens flare. It's where the sunlight is hitting the camera lens, and it's got this like lens flare effect. So I want to try and do something like that as well. Let's just save this, and we're going to go to filters, and let's go to effects again, and we've got this lens flare here. You can see lens flare, so let's click on lens flare, and really what we want to try and do here is position our lens flare so that it sits on top of this supernova. So we need to move it down a little bit. Let's try and position it somewhere like right here. That's really roughly where we want it. We want it to sit right in the middle of there as much as possible, as accurately as possible. You can use this tool here to move it pixel by pixel, but I reckon that's probably about right. You can see what effect it's done. It's got like this effect here, you see. So let's click OK. This takes a bit of time. You see this green line progress bar. Depending on your machine, it's going to take a bit longer, or, you know, slower, faster. And we can see this lens effect now. Now our logo is looking a bit different. It looks like this sunlight is hitting our logo, and it's having some sort of drop shadow effect. And we've got these nice little effects in here. So let's just save this, file, export, and we'll call this one effects. And we save that, and we're going to export it. So we've got various versions of our logo now. Let's minimize. That's really all I'm going to be doing with this particular logo design. But let's go and see, you know, and if at any time you want to see a different version of it, all you've got to do is hide and show. You can hide and show, and you can see all the different versions of your logo with the different background colors. So you may use this for some fancy artwork, like a front cover of a brochure or something, possibly, or your website. And you may use this plain version on your business card, and you've got a black version here. You may use that for some whatever you're going to use it for. It's down to you. Let's leave it on this effects one. Let's just save our work, and we can minimize this software. We can even close it now, really, to be honest. We're already done with this tutorial in terms of logo design. But let's just have a look at what we produced. So let's start off with this one. We've got this effect here. We've got this one here with our lens flare and stuff like that. We've got this plain one here with this gradient, and we've got the white version. So really that concludes this tutorial for this logo design. I've given you like a basic version of this logo. You know, you can improve this in many ways. You've got to go and experiment. It's never going to be perfect the first thing that you do, but the more that you play around with this software, the better. You know, you've got to go and experiment. A lot of this stuff that I learned in here, I just clicked on things and tried to work out what does what. If you want to really get, you know, a real understanding of this software, all of the different tools, I advise you to go back onto Google. Let's just get back to Google. Let's type in GIMP. Let's go to this website here, and we're going to click on download. And I've actually downloaded this manual here. This is like the United Kingdom version. You've got probably American spelling version of it up here, or in all these different languages. So why don't you go and download this manual. It's quite large, 25 megabytes, but download it and you can go and find more information about these tools and what they do, and you can have some fun. So I hope you enjoyed this DCP web tutorial, and I hope to see you making your own logo for your own business, and that concludes this tutorial.